To create bubble prints, you need a few simple things: dish soap, a bowl of water that's filled most of the way, and food coloring or paint. First, I'm using food coloring. You need enough color and enough soap to make bubbles that are very clear. This might take a few tries. I'm mixing up my solution because I need to make sure that there's enough soap that the bubbles, when I blow into the bowl, will stay. They won't pop on their own. Now, when I'm blowing these bubbles, I want to pile up a bunch of them because that's what my paper is going to touch. I'm going to take a paper I've already started putting a print on and test out my bubbles. Now, looking at the paper, it doesn't look like I have enough food coloring in my bowl. So I'm going to try again. Maybe add in some more food coloring or switch to a smaller bowl. I've poured some of my solution into a smaller bowl, and I'm going to add more dish soap and more food coloring so my bubbles are thicker and they will hold more color when I print on the paper. Now I'm going to mix up my solution, blow a bunch of bubbles again, and lay my paper just on top of the bubbles. You don't want it to touch the water itself, but you can tap your paper over and over again on top of bubbles that are still on the surface. Now on my test paper, I can see that color is showing up. It might not look too strong right away, but we're going to layer a lot of bubbles on top of each other. So I'm probably ready to start a final print. I'm going to use thicker paper because regular paper does tend to curl up. It should still work if you use regular paper, you just have to be a little more careful to not get it too wet. You may have noticed I added a little more food coloring and soap. Now that I've added a little bit more, I'm noticing that I can see my bubble print clearly, and I'm trying to touch as many different parts of that bubble solution as I can to get bubble patterns on my paper. Now that I have a good mixture of soap and color, I'm just going to keep blowing bubbles and laying them on top of parts of my paper that are still white. The more I layer, the darker my print will be, and the more that those bubble shapes will show up. Now, as I'm layering, you'll notice that I'm trying to touch bubbles in the areas of my paper that are still white and empty. You don't have to do this with all the same color. If you have a couple bowls, you could make different colors and layer them on top of each other. Now, my print already looks pretty nice the way it is, but I think I'd like to experiment with a different color on top. I've made 2 more very small bowls of solution, and the purple one is another food coloring and soap solution. I'm going to test the strength of the color on a separate piece of paper. Yep, I can see that one really well, so I must have added a lot of color in that one. So I finish up this purple paper print, and I also put purple on top of my blue bubble print to add a different color layer. I'm also going to try my paint and soap solution. Now, the paint that I have is really light color, so it might not be that I don't have enough paint, but that I just need to add layers on top for this particular color. If you have darker paint, I would recommend using that. And you want to use the type of paint that's a very thin, liquidy consistency. You don't want something really thick. Tempera paint works, or the liquid acrylics, which is what I use because that's what I had in my house. I'm just layering the same, and you can still see that there are bubble prints showing up on this paper as well. Whatever you decide to do for our water challenge this week, I hope you have fun, and I hope that you post a picture, whether you send it to me or you post it directly on our student gallery. I love seeing your work, and I love seeing the creative ideas you guys come up with. Have fun, and I'll talk to you next week.